ask all of us, how are you? How are you? And David, as you just described, the sense of peace, and then also the sense of a part that's kind of looking around, how does it answer? How are you?
It's hard to pin down. On the one hand, there's definitely being here, but the description is pretty illusory. I definitely want to. There's a wanting part that wants to have a vocabulary to describe it, and it's not feeling really. There's there's not adequacy to do that exactly,
Yeah,
which is a little bit shakes up the peaceful part a little bit.
yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
For all of us, what David's just kind of leading us in. And Mary Lise, we can't see you. Where are you? Is just this discernment with this how are you between this the background, he's coming, yay! The background of self, where this beingness that in David's is peacefulness, peace. And then the foreground are the parts or the weather. Sometimes we call it the sky and the weather. And in David's, it was a sense of looking around. And then also a sense of, oh, wait, I'm really not coming up with the words here. And the experience of that. And so there are all these different, and so from one perspective, we're just playing with that discernment. And it might be like, hey, Sid, that's really simple between self and parts. That's really simple. I got that. But on another level, it can be like the whole darn journey for people. Just that discernment, that clarity between the sky and the weather, between what traditions call, like they call it the true nature, Atman being, self isness. And so what's that for you right now, for all of us? For David, it's peace. Oh, there she is. Oh, what's what's the flavor of this? And it might be like, hey, there's no flavor. It's just emptiness. See if you can find even a flavor in that. Then just to play a little bit more with this discernment before we go around. We did this last time in the group. We worked with the word aloneness. And the invitation is just in playing with this discernment, can you find aloneness as a part of a personal part? Aloneness. Sometimes
Mhm.
it comes up as loneliness. Sometimes, oh, the preference for connecting with friends, the enjoyment of the five of us being together now. Aloneness. What's that like as a part? Alone. I feel alone. Like there's a lack there. There's something missing. And then if we know alone, that word aloneness as a quality of this beingness, where there's just aloneness. What do you find there? If there's absolutely nothing missing, there's no lack. What's that like for you? Aloneness. And some of us, sometimes it's not, sometimes I can't even find it. Sometimes it's not accessible. See what your flavor of it is. And that's just a lot of the game we're playing here. And then what's the relation between the two? As you find this aloneness, or what's most like it as beingness for you, and you notice a part, if you can find it, that's feeling alone or lonely. What's the relation between those? Can you be aware of both of them? There can be this absolute okayness, this fulfillment of being, and also the lack.
Hmm. Yeah.
But like, how does this work in each of our systems to play with this? And now you can drop the aloneness exploration and just like what's alive in your system? What's alive? Let's go around and just hear about for each of us how beingness is here. What's the most prominent quality of this beingness? What is beingness? What's isness? What's this true nature for you right now? What's here? You don't have to look. Sometimes we have a part. It's like, oh, he's asking me to do this. I need to look and find it. And there's the part that might do that, like David's part, looking for words. And then all we just have to just notice what's here. Because there's silence here. Is it for some, it's all somatic. It's a vibration, it's a frequency, it's an aliveness, it's a presence, it's a presence. For others, it's flow, openness, welcoming, care, tenderness, calmness, peace. What is it here? And then what's the parts that are here? Might be a part like, God, Sid's being all conceptual today. Just, I don't know about this. Or I'm and Mary Elise is going, oh, Sid, you nailed it. And or there's a bored part, or there's a part that's like, gosh, I'm having a really hard time today in my, and I'm really hoping there'll be some relief. I'm hoping I'll be able to connect with this place David's describing and go sink into that with the group. Notice what the parts are wanting, or if there's an understanding part that's wanting something, and just to notice the parts that are here. Like Rumi has this poem, Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Welcome and entertain them all. Here we are. Here you are, your guest house. What are the parts? What are the voices? What are your precious guests, the precious expressions of life in you that are here? And my invitation for each of us right now is to see if you can be aware of at least two guests. And are you able to be aware of both of them? Perhaps it's like seeing them in the house. Wow, there are two guests in the house. One's really angry, and another one's just like sitting having coffee. Or for some of us, it's a hot tub, and they're just soaking in a hot tub. And for others, it's a planetarium, and they're planets. Or it's a stage, it's a theater stage, and they're actors. But see if you can be aware of at least two and see if you can see them both. And then what are those parts? What are those precious expressions of you? And then what are they arising in? What's the space? What's the space that hosts, that welcomes this that arises in you? All right. And Mary Elise, would you like to start us off, or would like, I said, come back to me?
I can try. Yeah. A part of me already got a little bit lost here. Basically, the invitation is just the quality of beingness and then like two parts, if I can
Yeah,
find them.
exactly. Or just what's here? What's here? And before you say anything, as we all see this, our friend Mary Elise, what do we see? What is the beingness that's here? What do we or what do you feel as we notice that there's a connectedness? We can resonate with each other. We can get to know beingness through each of the gifts that each of us offer. What do we notice? And are we going to get it right? Mary Elise, what's there?
Well, in responding to your invitation, if I wanted to go first, there's like an eager part. It's like eager to engage with life and kind of like jump in and, like tell you all about, you know, what's going on. And also a more cautious part that's like, but is it like totally safe? Is it like totally cool to, be engaging this much? So I'm aware of both of those. Yeah.
Mm.
And then, hmm.
As Mary Lisa's feeling in, can we all relate to these two parts? One that just is part of us just gets excited about life. Hey, we get to go do this, or maybe you're doing something later today, or you'll get to share how things are showing up in you and connect with us and enthusiasm. And also another voice that's like, hey, is it safe? How much can I share? How much can I reveal? Is this safe? Do we know those two expressions of life in us? Can we resonate as we hear it in Mary Lease? Is she really, can we find how she's pointing to each of us? And what's it like to have that tension? Yes, I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure. Is it okay that that's here? Can each of us be aware of that inside of us? And is it okay that that's here? And can we even see the dearness of these expressions in us? The dearness of it. Like the yes, yes. Oh. And then Mary Lise, what's it all arising in? What are you finding?
Like this sense that's been with me today that it's kind of like no matter what I decide to do, no matter where I go or what happens, all is well. Like the sense that it's like I'm playing with life. It's like this kind of sense of, well, sometimes I might be more serious and, see kind of like be really scared of making the wrong choice or, something like that. And that's not where I am right today. Today it's like life is a playground. That kind of sense of peace and like a trust. Yeah.
That's all? This life is a playground? So who wants to go there? Who wants some of that? Life is like this, what Mary Lise just described. It's like, and what's most like that in your system? No matter what happens, all is well. No matter what happens, all is well. Serious. Like let's have Mary Lise right now. She's our guru. I mean, just what she's speaking of. It's so beautiful. It's like what's most like that in your system? And if you're not, if something she's saying a little foreign, see if you can do the old tuning fork and just see if you can find the resonance with where she's coming from, this way beingness is in her system, that all is well, all is okay. And then, Mary Lise, what's it like having that here and then noticing the parts that are here, that one that's enthusiastic for life and the one that's a little cautious? Is it like, how does it make sense of and maybe there are other parts here too going on. How does your system make sense of all of this happening?
Well, it kind of depends. When that cautious part came up for a moment, it kind of took me a bit farther away from this place of like playfulness. There was a bit more of like a, cautious kind of, and then, you know, but then, yeah, it's kind of like I can move kind of back and forth between that and, but if I find this place this where there's this playfulness, then um I don't know how to put it into words. I guess I can just
Mm,
love all of that, what's going on as
beautiful.
it's as it's going on. Yeah, and not have so much like attachment to outcomes or anything particular happening, or yeah.
Perfect. How's that for everyone? As we hear Mary Lee say this, what's it like in your system? First, the description of the back and forth. She's guiding us all here. Description of the back and forth. That sometimes, sometimes the one that's a little suspicious, not knowing it, we kind of get a little pulled into that. And well, then here I am back in life as a playground, and pulled again, back and forth. Do we know that in our system? And then there's this sense of also just like loving what is, like loving it, possibly just loving the play. This is part of the play as we notice the parts at play. How does this, what's your version of what Mary Lee's just described for us? Thank you. Thank you, Mary Lee. It was such a great starter today. Yay. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, I think it
Wonderful.
makes sense for me to name that I might leave early today. Yeah, it's really sunny outside, and there's these parts that really want to engage with life are like also pulled there.
Yes, yes. Great. When you are ready to leave, will you let us know so we can all wave you off into playland outside?
Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I was going to go to, before we go to Ramiz here, just to notice how we all are. How are you? Just notice what's here. How is being showing up for each of us? How are the parts showing up? Notice maybe parts that still might be responding to Mary Lee's like, gosh, that was so cool. I want to just notice the parts. And then here we are, now. Sense of here now. This moment, this presence, this beingness. Hey, Ramiz, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Please help me.
It doesn't matter. It's Ramiz.
It's
Ramiz.
Ramiz. Thank you so much, Ramiz. Welcome. Welcome. Tell us about you. What's here in you right now?
There's a part where it senses sensations, and there's a sense of doubt about what to call them. How to give them the correct name. Maybe fear.
When you connect with the fear, and for all of us, when we hear Ramiz say, maybe fear, what's most like fear in all of our systems right now? How is fear expressing? And what else would you say about that fear?
Is
What's the flavor of it?
vibration. It's a little bit trembling.
And notice, here's my question for you and all of us as we notice our fear. And Ramiz, it's a vibration, a trembling. Then my question is, what responds to that? As we notice the fear, is it met being by another part that's like trying to understand it, trying to fix it, trying to relieve it? Or is it being met by beingness, by self, from a place of okay-ness, a sense of welcoming? What's the fear being met by? Ramiz, what do you find?
There's sense of resistance.
And then as you know, as we all notice these, so there's a sense of we all can find some flavor of probably some kind of fear, contraction in our system. And then for most of us, there'll be some kind of resistance that'll come up to it. For some of us, it'll just be met by self. It'll just be a sense of welcoming, but often there's a part that comes up and resists it. Can we get a sense of a location in our systems for the resistance that comes up or the fear itself? Like, where do we find this for all of us? It's a fear like in the belly, a contraction in the belly, in the chest. And if something resists it or prefers that it was different than it is, where does that a resistance appear? And then what's it all arising in? What's in your system? What's the beingness? What's the space that this is all happening in? What do you find, Ramiz?
There's contraction in the shoulders, in the back,
Yes,
and the throat, and the forehead. There's
right.
pressure, vibration,
So
and
isn't this fascinating? It's all very somatic in your experience. It's so somatic, knowing it all in the body, the back, the shoulders, the forehead, the contraction, the pressure. Then, can we find that there's something that all of this is occurring in, or perhaps there's a sense of awareness of it? This is where we talk about self, this beingness, this field, this sky, the background. Is it a sense of everything is arising in? For David, it was this peacefulness. For Mary Lise, there was just this okayness, this well-being, the sense of a playground, everything's okay. In your system, with this, everything's arising in the body, the somatic experience of this, is there a sense of it's arising in, a sense of presence, a sense of aliveness, a sense of flow? How would you describe that?
the closest thing I can think of or feel is the sense of breath.
And as we notice this sense of breath, what is that? What do you find in the breath? Is there is there a sense of ease, relaxation? Is there peace there? Is there a sense of harmony arising in? What's that breath indicate for you?
Sense of softness.
Beautiful, perfect. So just for all of us, as we hear the breath is helpful in Ramiz's system. What's the breath for you? Because we have these anchors of these bodies that we're in and that are always here. What's the breath? Is it softness? Does it help? What does it help anchor in your system? What does the breath anchor? And as Ramiz says, softness. What's most like softness for all of us? What's most like softness? We think about the guest house, the sense of the host. Oh, how sweet. There's just a softness in the host, in the space. There's a softness here in this home. Any kind of final thoughts you'd like to share, Ramiz?
Is that softness what you call self?
That's what we're that's what we're looking at, is just that. And it's what we're curious about is your version, right? Your precious system. And what we're looking for is what's causelessly here. what's just here. The softness doesn't require me to do well on something or get approval or to be rested. There's just softness here. Just like in David's system, there's just peace. And this is our exploration. There's no right answer. It's just the curiosity is the wonder. It's just to be in this exploration that we're in today, because we're about to hear from Jack and we'll hear from David again. And as they share what it is for them, it'll be a game of, oh, what's most like that here? And we're just becoming more and more intimate with what we're calling self, or whatever word you want to use for it. How's that for now? Is that anything else?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you for leading us deeply into the somatic. So before we go to Jack, how are you? How's everybody doing? How are you? Notice what comes. Oh, I'm curious, excited about what Jack's going to share. I'm a little bored. I'm tired. There's discomfort here. Oh, I'm okay. There's that okayness. Oh, it's the playground. It's this, where there's peace or there's softness here. Notice what's here for all of us. How are you? And just to use Ram Dass's words, the being here now. Here we are now. In fact, in this moment now. What do we find? Is there okayness? Is there peace? Is there stillness here? Jack, where are you going to take us?
Hey,
Hey,
I guess for like a session to self would be awareness. It's like what awareness is aware of after the sense of there being someone that's aware is sort of dissolved away. That's the best way I can describe it. But what's arising right now for me is a sense of where boundaries are arising. I think your aloneness maybe got that going. Because boundaries are where we touch, right? There's a part that's trying to listen and understand and listen and relate. That's kind of constant, right? So it's a real sort of, yeah, it's a very, I feel like what's arising is a real human expression. Like everything that's going on, I notice it's really coming from a human perspective. It doesn't always have to be like that, but right now it's very much a human perspective. And I'm also getting a sense of how maybe it gets back to the aloneness a little bit, but then it doesn't, that all of us are experiencing very different worlds. Like our weather is all very different. So that's kind of one of my parts are noticing, whoa, we're really, so far everybody's experiencing something really, I mean, not that I couldn't try to experience what they're saying, right? I could do that, right? But it seems
so
that
here's
they're all
your
very
question.
different.
The one that notices. So as we notice the different expressions from each of us, what's the flavor of that part? It's like some parts see the difference and like, oh
It's a
wow, and there's like
self-like part.
wonder.
It's a self-like part. It's a self-like part, yeah. So it's like it's just finds patterns maybe, uh, looks at what pops up in consciousness and maybe tries to see if there's any patterns coming up there or not. Yeah.
Let me just bring everybody in with what you shared so far, Jack.
Hopefully they were already in, but let's bring them in again. Let's.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Jack has brought you into what he's sharing. I guess Sid's just going to try to. I'm going to try to support
translate.
that. translate,
translate that shit
I
for
don't,
me.
or maybe none of it's necessary because just like Mary Lee's, like how do you translate? It's like a playground, and Jack's. I just want to, I guess I just want to ask everybody, how much are you able to, are you receiving from Jack? How are you able to go? Are you letting yourself take it in? Are you letting yourself go and explore where, as if he's speaking about your system, he's inviting you as he shares each of these, he's inviting you to see what you can find that's most like that. As he speaks, that this beingness, this self for him right now is like what's here when the self that when the sense that this this that is aware of something is has dissolved, and there's no longer a sense of subject and object. And I'll Jack correct this, but when you've touched that, it's a sense of there's a me and there's other, then there's just this, not a subject object. And then if that just seems conceptual, like we did with Mary Lee, see if you can tune into Jack. I mean, we've got Jack here with us, holding this as this. What gift is that for us? As Ramiz asks about, well, it's just, would you call this self? As we're getting different flavors of self, and we get this very beautiful flavor from Jack right now. What's that like? And then just Jack also mentioned a part that was just noticing the dips, like the wow, everybody's like going from Ramiz's system to Jack's system to Mary Lisa's to David's. It's like we're all so different. What's arising, the weather that's arising. And do you have a part that's like that? That's just kind of making sense of or contrasting. And then when Jack also shared that there's a very human perspective here today in his system, where do you go with that when he says that? And for me, it was almost like where he's coming from in this awareness, perhaps awareness unity space, that there's a preciousness when he sees this human expressiveness come up in him, when he sees the parts as very human. And there's just an enjoyment, perhaps an enjoyment of that, of seeing the humanness. Back to you, Jack. See what else you got
Thank
for
you,
us. How
Sid,
did that
as
do?
usual. Thank you. You did great, Sid. Yeah, yeah. I guess the other thing I feel, it's the other thing that's interesting is definitely feel I definitely feel boundaries coming up, and a lot of them are just polite boundaries. Like I don't want to be impolite, right? That's part of it, and there really is a part that's afraid of how I might, how not that I can make, not that I want to make people feel a certain way, but there's a fear of that I might make people feel offended or something like that. That's there a little bit, I've noticed. So. It's cautious about that. It sets boundaries around that. Yeah.
What's that as we hear of Jack's boundaries? Something like Marie-Lise was saying, there's something that's a little careful, wants to make sure everything's okay, wants to kind of in her system. And Jack's word is for his, it's just like these very light, these light boundaries that come up. Not wanting to offend anybody. What's your version? What's your version of it? And then my curiosity is of what's it being met by as we notice parts, little protective parts that are putting up some that are have these that are asserting some boundaries. Are they just rising, and then there's a sense of they're being met by the awareness that's here, the sense of welcoming, the ok-ness? Or is there a part coming up like saying, oh, maybe it'd be better if they weren't here? Or, maybe a curious part, like an analyzer thinking about these boundaries. What does this mean? Is this okay? What meets your boundaries in your system? What meets your protectors? Are they being met by the guest, the host of your guest house? Are the guests being met by the host, by the space? What else you got for us with this, Jack, with the boundaries? Anything else you'd like to share?
The boundaries, yeah, the boundaries are interesting. I tend to just see that it's nice to see that they're there, right? And I generally let them be there. I don't try to push them usually. That's just sort of the way I am. Especially with sort of parts that have like real strong reactions in a way that may not be very helpful. So I'll say, hey guys, okay, I hear you, but you know. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank everybody.
How was that for everybody? How was that? Did we get to go into Jackland? Did we get to travel and have him? Were we able to resonate and see what happens inside our systems as we?
It felt like a pretty curated visit for you guys. I curated this visit. So I wasn't gonna let you run everywhere. It was curated. I'm sorry.
That was very kind. We had this curator. So before we go to David, just notice what beingness is in your system right now, what self is in your system. Because we're doing, there's a lot more happening here than just hearing from our friends. There's a sense of more and more intimacy with our nature that we're hearing from each of us with these qualities of self. And hopefully in a really like playful, loving way, we're getting to know that which these spiritual traditions point us to, that in IFS we call self. Then we're also hopefully there's becoming more lightness around our parts as we start to recognize our parts in each other, and we get a little distance from our parts, and we can see some of the preciousness of them or see the innocence of our parts. How are you seeing what's arising in you right now? Is it okay that these parts are arising in you, that these voices are here, that in Remiz's system, there's the tension, the discomfort that's here in the body? Is there can we see what's arising in such a way that there's an okay-ness with it? Because here's the good news, right? As we get more and more okay-ness with what's here, we get to have more of what Mary Lise was pointing to, the sense of this playground. It's like, whoa, I like that. It's like playground. Life's a playground. In India, they call it the dance of Leela. And it's very much, it's like one of the highest spiritual places is this playground where everything is just this flow, this dance, this love. And this is my little intro for David, because he's going to take us someplace with all of this.
Yeah, so I do have this peaceful thing going, but someplace along the line here, I woke up to there's a seeker. I guess because something was said about, I don't know, I myself said about peacefulness, and yet there was a part that was seeking, like something needed to be found, and the paradox of that didn't work. It's like, here I am, I'm experiencing that together, but they kind of don't make sense together about being peaceful and complete on the one hand and then still seeking on the other hand. And immediately there's a part that arises in that is very amused, that just is, and that part of that the paradox was funny came up when Marie-Lise was talking about the playground. It felt kind of similar to me. I don't know if it's similar, but it felt kind of similar to me. And Ramiz, when he spoke about breathing and the sensations of breathing, that really woke up that to me. And it lingers. It's still here. The breathing is like, there's movement in the breathing, like a merry-go-round. There's something circular kind of about the in and the out and the repetition. But but again, the wholeness of being sees that as complete. So there's motion and stillness at the same time. It's very odd, and again, kind of amusing, funny, how that is paradoxical conceptually, but the experience is unified or singular.
Let me ask a couple questions to everyone in you with this, David. Okay, all fine. David speaks of stillness. What's most like stillness for each of us? Stillness. And maybe you have a different word for it. Stillness. And then David describes, then there's motion happening. There's motion, there's breathing happening. There are these parts, there's the seeker and his system, and there's stillness. Can stillness include motion?
Yeah.
What's that like for all of us? We can, there's a stillness and then there's motion. And Marie-Lise was talking about a back and forth, right? And the back and forth is such incredible clarity in this game to be able to make the discernment, to come back to the playground and then go to the part, back to the playground of this ok-ness. And then sometimes we touch what we're playing with here in David's system. Sense of motion being included in the ok-ness, where Marie-Lise was going to when she was just, it's all okay, and the parts, everything's okay, it's all playing here. Motion included in the ok-ness. When the seeker comes, it's like, no, we seek, and it's like, wow, this doesn't make sense, seek. But it's like, wow, and is there still ok-ness here? Is it still pervaded by the stillness? In Ramiz's system, the discomfort in the body, can that discomfort be here? And but there's softness. Everything's still, it's rising in softness. There's softness here, even while the discomfort's here. And Jack's system with these light boundaries, these boundaries that are coming up, and the part that's just, the part that was aware of the differences in our expressions. Can that all be here, but not separate from the awareness? Back to you, David.
Yeah, that was all really good, Sid. I was kind of like flowing into your stream of words there real smoothly. I wanted to appreciate what Sid unveiled too. Was really kind of when he spoke of boundaries. I looked out at my screen and I saw these 5 boxes, and they were all separate, and there's separate people in them. And so the 5 separate people are here together, and then, but there's also like falling back or stepping back from that. There was the seeing of it was unseparate, was whole or fused together. And that the me seeing it was coming from a place of unity. Maybe something like the subject object thing falling away. Because I heard that. I heard that.
Let me just check with everybody here. When we hear David describe this, he sees the 5 boxes here and a sense of wholeness, seeing from unity, a connectedness amongst these apparent others. This is what the founder of IFS, Dick Schwartz, speaks of, about how the world, the outside world, mirrors our inside. As we are, we're able to see this with our parts. We're able to touch on, wow, there's motion within the stillness. We think there's a pervadedness. They're pervaded with the stillness, with this being. There's a lack of separation inside that becomes mirrored, reflected in the outside with what David's describing that he just was experiencing with all of us. When have you glimpsed that? Often people, sometimes they glimpse that in nature. We glimpse it when we have experiences of falling in love, or sometimes on a psychedelic journey, or we're dancing. Just it's that sense of that unity. And that's what a lot of people speak of the spiritual journeys as going into oneness, finding oneness, unity, indivisibleness. But it doesn't have to be some kind of peak experience. Perhaps it can just be these eyes of unity that David's describing, seeing through. Please continue for us, David.
I just before you spoke of the possibility of nature being a resource for this. My backyard is right here, and I wasn't looking at it, but it caught my attention, and a coyote just went by. It's like, there was the presence of wild and free. And suddenly there's something, the aliveness volume got turned up.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the aliveness volume got turned up as we this freedom, this connectedness, and then like almost like Jack was saying, and like the humanness of it all, like just the aliveness, this humanness of it. We get this, something gets turned up, or maybe Mary Lisa's the enthusiastic for life part. Was it like that, the aliveness, David, or was it more like the aliveness of it all, of the whole field?
Very much the whole field, and the volume of the sensation of the body was a strong part of that.
Mm, nice. Thank
And
you. Thank
the
you.
all at onceness of the body was kind of related to the stillness, but there's also was movement from one part to another. Like the seeker, the part that wanted to pin it down and be able to talk about it was like my back.
Mm.
Weird. I can't figure it out, don't have to, but it's kind of great seeing it. And that that you folks are all here with me as I speak of it was very I appreciated that company. I wanted to say that.
So here's a question for you, and here's a question for all of us. Some people do psychedelic journeys. Some people have experiences of love making with their beloved, with when they're seeing a newborn, or when they're in nature. When we have what these peak experiences, when we have these glimpses, like are these just peak experiences, or are these glimpses of more of reality, more like we're seeing through the parts that obscure self. We're just getting a sense of seeing more from our nature, from self, from these eyes of unity David's describing. And this is a big deal, right? It's like how how parts interpret this.
Yeah.
When if I asked each of you, like, what's your nature? What is your true nature? What is this? What is David? What is Ramiz? What is Mary Lise? What is Jack? It's like really, as we get to know that. And guys, I didn't share something. I didn't share my housekeeping, and I'm remembering I need to do that real quick. Thank you, Jack. I'm a mediator. I'm not a psychotherapist. This isn't the IFS of psychotherapy. We're friends and colleagues exploring, and if everybody's kind of good being responsible for their journey today, if I could get a thumbs up for everybody. And Ramiz, can I get a thumbs up? Can't see that. Yeah, thank you. And then the other thing is that, as always, I'm recording this, but only my square of the video will be shared. However, the audio of anything you shared today could be included, because I'm wanting to make this available for free for others who are interested in this. But if there's ever anything that you share that you're uncomfortable with, just stay on and let me know afterwards, and I'll delete it. Everybody's good with that this might be shared electronically. If I could get a thumbs up, please. And I'm also I'm thinking today, guys, that I'd like to end it a little early, maybe to end it on the hour, for this reason. I think just to share what's happening here. I have spent the last 3 days in the hospital, living there with my father, and he came home yesterday. And it's really fascinating that there's this okay-ness here, and there's also like lots of concern, and they're all here. And I was really looking forward to what we're doing today, because it's just this is the edge in my system, is the exploring with you all, because it's like, wow, to go into to fully go into the somatic with Ramiz and where he took us, and to go into the playground with Mary Lise, and then Jack does, hey, there's no one aware anymore, there's just awareness. And then where David just took us with these eyes of unity. I mean, that's just, for this system, it doesn't get any better to explore that. And I guess I'll just also say, as in my systems, as I'm doing that, as I'm exploring, there's still a sense of the guest house. There's still a sense of my parts that are here. And this is really important to me in this work, that we don't leave anything behind. Sometimes Dick Schwartz, the founder, calls it the inner bodhisattva. Like, we're not going to leave any of our parts behind, anything that has any contraction, any sense of want. Everything gets to be included inside of us, absolutely everything. And so being with the four of you is just, it's just my system, my guest house gets to go. It's just such a sweet, rich exploration of everything each of you have shared. So if we do that for 5 more minutes, and we need more, we can go longer. But let's see how is everybody doing? How are we doing? Maybe we go around one more time quickly to see how everybody's doing, and I'll just go in the same order, if that's all right. To go back to Mary Lise, and then yeah, how's Mary Lise doing? And she loves it when I put her on the spot. She just loves it, especially when it's a surprise.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. I guess, yeah, there's a little bit of disappointment. Some part of me was looking forward to some kind of like meditation-like thingy, or what you call this,
Oh,
like,
oh.
what did you call it? Like a
A,
dive?
a dive, a dive. Okay, I promise you next time we'll do it, because recently it's like been so rich having it's almost like each of us are taking us on a dive as they go in. But I will make sure to do at least to do one next time, Mary Elise. And yes, I promise you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, who knows if I'll be here next time? We'll see.
Next time you're here, you get it. It will be the special Mary Elise dive, and I will even invite you to give us a theme for it.
Oh, wow, that's an honor.
Oh.
Ah,
And just let me just pause for just a minute. Can you like the enjoyment of it's like anything that comes up in Mary Elise? Just notice if you're just like there's a curiosity, a sense of welcoming, and like, wow, what's she gonna say next? Is it gonna be even if she said, "Oh, David and Jack, I didn't understand a thing you said." Could you find that part in her would just be so welcome? Or Sid, this is like the worst group you've ever done. Could you notice the part there and just be like, oh, what a precious part, and just love it, but not in like making less of it. It's just like loving it and just so appreciating that voice and just the way she's sharing life with us and what's arising. And just for all of us, with what each of us have shared, just notice how our system responds. Sorry, Mary Lise. What else you got?
yeah, I guess I'll just have like a quiet exploration that I'm not sure how to put into words, at least not briefly. I get that this isn't an invitation for a brief sharing. Yeah, I've just been exploring. That's where I am.
And then in you and for all of us, like when I invite us to see how we respond to Mary Lisa's parts that come up, that this game goes deeper. And it's because it's not about Mary, it's not really about Mary Lisa's parts. As we can respond really from a place of awe and whatever, if we can respond from that place to her, if we can respond that way to her parts, then the game is how are we responding to ours? Are our parts? God, I messed up. I'm frustrated. I don't like this. Do we get to welcome those that way? As Mary Lise describes, there's this exploration happening. How are we welcoming inside ourselves these parts that are exploring, figuring out, making sense of, finding more self? Oh, thank you, Mary Lise, for me, you taking us on a dive, taking us on an exploration. That's what happens here. I am absolutely got to go with you. Thank you so much. And then before we go to Ramiz, just to give him a little warning, which I didn't give my release. All right, Ramiz, it's to you. What you got for us for your finale today?
I feel everything is vibrating. It's it's like excitement and fear at the same time.
And just here's a question for you and all of us. As we hear Ramiz say, it's just vibrating. There's a vibrating here. What's that for you as you hear him say that? Is it an aliveness? Is it a presence? Is this awareness that Jack's describing? What is that vibration? In Ramiz's system, it's like he finds excitement and fear in that. Can you relate to that? What's your version of it? What's that like inside of you? That's what Ramiz is describing for us. And lastly, is it okay that it's here? Is it okay? Is it being that there's a vibration, there's fear, and there's excitement? Is there, notice if there's a part that comes up with resistance or would prefer something to be different, and we just notice that part. And is there okayness for this play, this drama, this playland that's happening inside of us? Anything, any final words, Ramiz?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's a treat having you here with us today. Thank you so much. Jack, what you got?
Yeah, I've when you and Mary Lise were talking, I felt two different parts arise. It was really interesting. One that just has this warm, sort of loving acceptance of Mary Lise, and just she's just really sweet, you know, like a daughter figure. You know what I mean? Like a, I don't know, that whole energy, and that's I really it's just so easy for me to love that kind of energy, right? And then there's another part that comes up and is extremely suspicious of that, the part that's like that. Like, oh, Jack, come on, give me a break. So I just felt that, and I trust you guys enough to share that with you, that there's this really suspicious part about that. That like, come on, give me a break. Just doesn't buy into that at all. So, and they're both there, and I try to love them both, you know, both of those parts. But
Can you
it's definitely
find
there.
first?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you find for all of us? Can we relate to this? That there's some people that are just so endearing. They're the Mary, whoever the Mary Lisa's are for you, and they now who are the Mary Lisa's in your life where there's just endearing, just love comes so easily. Who are your Mary Lisa's? And then you notice that for some others, you have a part that comes up that's like, oh, I don't know if I trust this, or you know, or
For
just
me,
a
it's the
part
same
that's like,
person. It's not like
same
another
person,
person. Like, same person.
same
Like it's
person.
just two different.
Even with Mary Lee, oh, I don't trust them. I don't. And just notice those parts that come up. And can there be a fascination with that? Like, wow. No, Jack? Yes?
Well, it's scary.
Fascination with
It's
this play.
definitely it's a fascination. That's a oh yeah. There's a definite fascination. They yeah.
And then just lastly, in IFS, Dick Schwartz talks a lot about being a hope merchant. And it's like, there's like, and I love this, the idea of like, well, what could be more beautiful if our whole world, everyone we saw, it was like, oh, they're all Mary Lisa's from that one part's perspective in Jack's of just like say that love, the endearment, the connectedness. And then what is it in our system that blocks us? Blocks us from having a world of endearing Mary Lisa's. I don't know if I won't say anymore. She's blushing, but but in a very serious way. Because for me, Byron Katie has been one of my models of this because that's what she sees. Because that's what she just sees. She just love everybody. It's everyone, everything, and we all have different people that represent that for us as models. Like, what is it in our system that obscures that possibility for us? David, you're our grand finale for the day. What are our bring it all together? Oh, you're muted.
Well, the part that feels challenged by being the finale, but yeah, that comes around here now and again. But you asked a question, and I can't remember the question about. And all I remember is this re-arising. I've known this, and I still know this. A conviction that it's always possible to simultaneously experience or directly know the self part, the being part, and all these other little parts that are fooling around. That's always a possibility. So, and I know that it's always a possibility because it's happened kind of on and off while we've been working together.
Right.
So thanks, David. Thanks all of you for all of that. Seeing it again and again.
Stillness and movement. Whatever it is for each of us, the simultaneity of self and parts, not separate, simultaneous. Thank you, everybody, for such a special time, and I look forward to next time. And I hope you heard. That was one of the reasons I really wanted to share about my experience. How it's like it's such a gift as each of you share what's happening for you. And it's for each of us as we get to receive. And just thank you for sharing you as the five of us get to co-create this and dive in deeper, just like with David's experiences and getting to know this more through all of us today. Mary Lee, please come back for the Mary Lee special dive. And see you later, everybody.
All righty.
I'm glad your dad's
Thank you.
back from the hospital, Sid. That sounds like a good thing. That's great.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, everyone.